Hi guys, good to see you. Ellen here again. I hope you are doing well. I am hearing quite a lot of good things, and I'm super happy to have all of you still attending the Future Leaders program. And I'm very excited to see you next time I'm in town. So the reason I'm here back in cyberspace is that, as you probably have noticed, this we're moving into a different phase of the program. Super exciting. So, uh, the last before Christmas, basically, what you did was that you had your groups, and we focused a lot on self leadership and leadership in relation to others. And we did so in quite a set framework, where you, of course, were to you could challenge and do your own thing, but it wasn't really designed that way. And that is a very important way to learn, but it's also a way where it's quite hard to fail. And as we all know, failing is very important to learning new things, to developing, etc. Um, Therefore, not only because we want you to fail, but also because we want you to succeed and try and get experience, we are now moving into the part of the program that evolves around a project. And this is really a way for you to get to test the things you learned last semester in real life. You get to see yourself in action, maybe as a leader, maybe your self leadership, and also you get to test out what you figured out in terms of values and what is important for you. So what you will notice is that the framework here is quite wide, and we are open for you challenging extremely much of the program. And in terms of how the normal leadership development program works, we would basically go on designing everything and not having you challenge that too much. But the thing is that Future Leaders is not really a normal leadership development program, and we don't really believe in setting a framework that won't fit all of you. So instead, we encourage you to take self-leadership for this next part, and we encourage you to use this in a way that it will suit you. And that is a huge responsibility, and it's also one that we are confident that you can handle at this point. So, I'm really excited to see the projects. But before those months have passed by, I hope to be able to today give you some introductions to two subjects that can be helpful, hopefully, in terms of the project that you're doing. The first being the UN SDGs, and the second being something we call the fourth industrial revolution. And I'm only going to touch upon this, and everything is of course to be found on the big internet. So I really encourage every one of you to check out both the SDGs in depth before moving on to your project, and also to look further into the fourth industrial revolution. But to give a starting point, and this is really the context in which you will operate your leadership, because now you have your self-leadership and you have the relations, but the thing that makes this quite a bit harder, is that we are really more than ever living and working in an extremely complex situation and a complex world, and therefore it is of value to understand the system and also how to work within it. So let's start with the SDGs. So the SDGs is basically something designed by the United Nations in September 2015. And the SDG stands for the Sustainability Development Goals. And it is basically United Nations coming together and defining that we are now, as a global species, facing a lot of challenges. And we can divide those challenges into 17 different goals that we need to reach before 2030. That is the goal, anyways. And these includes things like education for all, good health, climate changes, etc. And in some way or another, these goals really concludes all the challenges that we're facing on a global scale. So with that said, everything that you are doing can somehow be related to these goals. And what's important here is that when you look up the goals later on today, you will find that many of these, or actually all of these, will seem maybe unreachable and most definitely quite hard to grasp and a bit overwhelming. And what's important to remember then is that you are only to relate to this in terms of a way that is right for you. So that means that you can either have a project that will impact millions of people, or you can have a project that will impact you. So there's many ranges here. You can set up a company that will solve the education system, or you can start bringing your own grocery net instead of having plastic bags after going shopping. There's many ways to do this. What is quite key though is that I'm not sure if you remember this, but way back in October when you agreed to sign up or commit to the Future Leaders Program, one of the only thing that we said that we expected from you guys was that you use what you've learned here to do good. And this is one of the points where that is starting to happening. So you can do good in terms of helping a friend out or impacting those millions. It is totally up to you, and we find both of them extremely important. So think about that and how you want to do your project. To sum up kind of like the UN SDGs, I want to quote a very wise man, Ban Ki-moon. And he said that we don't, in terms of the SDGs, we don't have a plan B because we don't have a planet B. And I think this, in as we go about our lives, this is extremely important to remember because we are facing a lot of challenges, and the way to solve them is not to lie down and cry and get depressed, but by taking choices that might seem easy or might seem extremely challenging, we are able to create impact. And the only ones that ever have created impact is people like any one of you, and you being here on Future Leader really tells me that you are able to take on these challenges and also that you want to contribute and create impact. So I'm very glad about that. So moving ahead, the next thing that I want to talk to you about is the fourth industrial revolution. And I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this term, but it is basically something that we're standing in right now. And as maybe some of you remember from way back in history class, it might be challenging to notice a revolution when you're standing in it, because things are moving so fast that it's hard to grasp, and also governments and policies quite rarely seem to keep up. So things are happening without us even noticing in many cases. And what's interesting with the fourth industrial revolution is that how we often communicate what it's doing is that it's basically all about challenging the cognitive abilities of us humans. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that we are now developing things like artificial intelligence, 3D printing, etc. And when we go about our lives, it might seem that these technologies haven't really gotten too far. But if you dig down in the research, you'll actually notice that artificial intelligence is at a point where it's, in many cases, um, more accurate in terms of giving diagnosis to patients than doctors. You'll also see that we now have technology that can 3D print heart tissue, giving so many more the possibility to survive heart diseases. So we are really starting to get to a very interesting point in terms of the technology and the opportunities that lies ahead. And um, what what we can define this growth as is something that we call exponential growth. So what is exponential growth? Maybe some of you know this before, but it's basically that something is doubling each time. So to give you a picture of what this means, let's say that I am sitting together with you right now. If I take 30 linear steps, which is basically 30 normal steps, now I don't know where you are, but I guess I'll end up somewhere out on the street. If I, on the other hand, walk 30 exponential steps, how long will I walk or go? Any guesses? Scream out. This is hard when I can't see you live. I'll just go for it. So you'll basically end up 26 times around the globe. And that is the difference between a linear development and an exponential development. And now things are starting to move at an exponential rate, which it's really hard to grasp the magnitude of what that means. So now you kind of like have the picture of the fourth industrial revolution and the SDGs, like very easily explained. So what does this mean? Well, it means that one of the things that is quite important in terms of how we develop our society, our governments, our day-to-day businesses, our companies, our startups, our organizations, etc., is that the only, or not the only, but by far the best way of making the world sustainable and having people have a good time and being healthy, and you get the point. The best way to do this is to make it as easy as possible for people. So if you are to revolutionize the way we use energy, the best way to go about it is really to make it extremely much more easy and also much cheaper to use sustainable energy than to use oil and gas. And that is really the way we in Future Leaders view how we should develop as a society, as a world, and also within businesses, politics, etc. So I could go about this topic all day. So if any of you are as nerdy, feel free to give me a call and we can have a cyber date on these topics. Everyone is invited. That is basically the information and the first insight. And as we are living in 2018, actually not even 17 anymore, I really encourage you, all the information that you need to do basically anything is out there. So go get it. And also, make sure to do something that you are encouraged and that you feel motivation to do. We won't grade you, we won't say this is good or this is bad. What we really do care about is that you find a project that you feel passionate about, and also that it is doing something good in some way or another. So I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with, even if it's a super small project or if it is a global disruptor. Both of them would be extremely cool to hear about. So I wish you all the very best. Stay positive and remember that this process, like figuring out life and how to fix the world, isn't easy. Figuring out what you want to do in this project is not easy, and it's not supposed to be. But take care of each other and work as a team and help each other out, and I'm sure that you will find amazing solutions and learn a lot on the way. So have fun, see you around, and look forward to seeing what you have achieved. Stay cool. Ciao.